Hello and welcome to the next chapter here in our complete web development series. What I'd like to do now is talk to you about what a database, okay? What is a database? Well, have you ever wondered if you're on a website and you save your information, so basically you fill out a form, basically give them a username and a password and your first name, and it creates an account for you. And have you ever wondered how that data is stored on the internet? Well, typically this is done with what's called a database. A database is just a piece of software or a way to store a structured set of data, and it stores it on a server. So you have basically a computer that's on the network or the internet, and this computer has database software built into it. And there's a lot of different types of database software. So let's just, to kind of visualize what a database is, what I've done, let me just switch over to my screen here. I have LibreOffice pulled up right here, and this is just a free and open source spreadsheet. And let's say, for example, we wanted to create a sheet, and we want to name the sheet users, okay? And in here, the top row, we're going to define these as column headers. So we're going to say ID, username, password, first name, last name, and I think that's enough information for now. But underneath here, what we want to do is we want to have a lot of users on our database. And so we could start out with ID of 1, and then the username might be, example, or whatever. Password, we'll just put password, or we'll just do pass. And it just typed password for me. Thanks a lot, LibreOffice, for trying to make my life easy. And then we'll do Curtis Parham. And then we could have another user called 2, and this could be Tony. Again, we'll just make the password pass. And this could be Tony Parham. And we'll just do one more. Let's do 3. And this will be Jules. His password will also be pass. And we'll do Jules for the first name and Parham for the last. So this is not a database per se. This is a spreadsheet, but we could add another sheet down here, and let's just call this sheet, let's just rename it, and let's rename this to-dos. Oops, to-dos, okay? And on this sheet, what we want to do is we're going to have a column called header ID, and then we'll do user underscore ID, and then we'll just do to-do. And so now we could store these IDs, and let's say this, if we look back on our users table, this ID would be 3 for Jules. So let's give Jules some to-dos. So let's say give him an ID of 3 for user ID, and then this to-do would be, buy milk. We'll create another one. We'll also give that one to Jules, and we'll say do homework. Okay, so this right here isn't necessarily a database, but this is kind of how a lot of databases are structured, where they have a table. So if I save this file, whole file could be kind of like a database, and each sheet in here would be a table, and we would have columns, okay, and we'd have rows of data that we can store. Now, this type of database would be considered kind of like a relational style of database, where this to-do is related to a user ID. So these tables are related to one another based on what we call a foreign key, or this would be a primary key. And then over here, this would be the foreign key, and this would relate to the user sheet here, or table. So this is kind of how data is stored on a database on a server. Now this is, I just wanted to give like a visualization in this kind of table, but this is how data could be structured and saved as a database. All right, so what is a database? A database is a structured set of data that's stored on a server that you can access, usually through a host name, like an IP address, and then it's usually secured with a username and password, or it could be secured with what's called an SSH key, or some sort of like key pair. So this is kind of what a database is. It's a way for us to store and save information for our website on our server or on a separate server that we can access from our servers, and then we can send the information back to the client. So that is what a database is, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this chapter. And we're going to dive in the next video and start creating a database and showing how it works. We're not going to be using LibreOffice. Don't worry about installing this. I just use this as kind of a visual representation of how data might be structured and stored in a server. But we're going to be using a piece of software called MySql, and so we'll dive in and answer the question like, what is MySql, and start actually looking at an actual server database software instead of LibreOffice. But I think it's a little easier before we get started to show how you might structure data into these columns and rows. Now, not all databases do it this way, but the ones we're looking at will do it that way. All right, I will talk to you in the next video.